All right, I will bring the meeting of January 25th, 2020 to order. And who hasn't done it in a while? Lisa, you lead us on the pledge?
All right, please stand. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Work, everybody.
So, for fun, they're all here.
It's the best pledge we've ever had. Wow, I just had a flashback of being in third grade.
Definitely pick them.
Okay, roll call. Linda, roll call.
Councilmember Hornick,
Here.
Councilmember Lewis,
Here.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Here.
Vice Mayor Silva,
Here.
and Mayor King.
Here. All right. Whoops. Okay, any reordering of the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, we have no reordering of the agenda tonight.
Okay, I have one public comment from Nancy Dorwin.
My name is Nancy Dorwin, and I reside at 104 Six Flags Circle, Buellton. And I'm here tonight to submit to public record our responses of the owners, members of the Rancho Bay Marie Association to the city attorney's response to the notice to the city concerning our objections to the final map recordation of approved conditions incorporating Rancho Bay Marie property. So we'll hope you take the opportunity to review and consider our responses to the city attorney. And also too, as part of the response, we have asked for a meet and confer with the city staff to go over these itemized concerns. So we look forward to hearing back from the staff as to time and date for that meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, and I would also like to call up our Lieutenant Mark Valencia.
Evening. I'll try to make this quick. My name's Mark Valencia. I'm the Lieutenant of the Sheriff Department, also the Chief of Police of Buellton. I just want to bring everybody up to speed that along with the Sheriff's Department and the city, we've been working diligently on our traffic issues, as you know. And the mayor and the Sheriff's Department has reached an agreement that we're going to reintroduce our motor program. So consider yourself warned. That being said, I'd like to address the council individually if you can. Most of you are very familiar with your districts, and if you have any areas that you'd like me to focus on right now, we can do it, or we can send an email. I know we have a larger agenda tonight, so however you guys wish to do that. Everybody has been concerned about traffic. It's going to be essentially a pilot program. We'll bring our motor back shortly. The motorcycle is actually being worked on, and it's a motorcycle that the city of Buellton owns. So we're going to get it back up to specs and back up out there, and we're going to focus on the schools primarily in the 246. However, each one of you does have your areas of concern, and I'd like to address those when we get the chance. So we can handle it that way. Do we have any questions right now regarding what we plan on doing?
No questions, just thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
No, sir, I think we covered it.
I'll give you a call tomorrow. We can discuss what's currently going on. Mayor, would you have any questions?
We got full service on that bike, right?
Yes.
Is that 40 hours a week?
Pardon?
Is that 40 hours a week?
It will not start that way. We can do the staffing, but the undersheriff and the mayor will come up with an agreement, the department agreement to just let's start the program on and see where we stand and slowly work into it until we get our staffing levels up. But for now, we're at least going to get them addressed now. I think it's important before anything were to happen. So I'm very good with that, and I'm looking forward to working with you. So if you guys please contact me and let me know the area you want me to focus on, because I know our citizens are concerned, as are we.
Chief, I'll go ahead and pull them tomorrow.
Okay,
And if they respond to me, I'll get the list of those to you at that time.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Lieutenant. Okay, let's move on to consent calendar. This will be minutes of January 11th, 2024, regular city council meeting. List of claims to be ratified, approved and ratified for payment to date for fiscal year 23-24. Monthly treasurer's report, December 31st, 23. Award of bid for McMurray Road Highway 246 Improvement Project. Award bid for the SYVCO CDBG 140 Highway 246 TI projects. And clarification of council appointments to GSA committee. And I will bring it to the council. Anything you want pulled off of this for further discussion? No one? I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
And I'll second. Linda? Here you go.
Okay, Councilmember Lewis,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silva,
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick,
I will abstain since I was absent last meeting.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
and Mayor King.
Aye. Okay, now we will move on to the fun part. Okay, I have presentations, and the first one will be a presentation of gold cards for boys and girls club recipients. Yeah, come on up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Michael Baker, CEO for United Boys and Girls Clubs and proud Buellton resident. I am honored to be here representing our organization and thank you for once again making a big deal about the gold cards for the Boys and Girls Clubs. And what I will share with you is that each of these children that are here, and there's a couple that couldn't make it tonight, but we have 21 children total at the Buellton site that have earned gold card status. And what that means is we know from Boys and Girls Clubs across the country over decades of research that the magic number is 105 days. If we can get a child to attend a Boys and Girls Club 105 days in the same calendar year, they're twice as likely to graduate high school in time and twice as likely to lead a healthy lifestyle. So we've completely embraced that concept, and the children here today during the 2023 calendar year attended their local Buellton club over 105 days. So they'll be receiving their gold cards tonight, and they get special privileges with those as well. But we are very excited, and again, want to thank you for making this a very special opportunity for our children. But I also want to make a special shout out to the parents and all the significant family members that came out to support your kids. This is, I know it's a big day for them, and I think a lot of them are excited. I was wondering, what are we doing here? But this is a big deal for our kids, and I want to thank you for constantly supporting your children. It's a special community. Buellton's a very special community. When you see this room packed like this with parents, it makes me proud to live in this community. So with that, we'll turn it back over, I think, to you.
Yeah.
We're gonna read the name.
I am.
We'll get a photo.
Do they already have their cards?
They do.
Okay.
So if you want to read the names, then we'll get a group photo if you could.
I will do that. And if you want to come up here and shake my hand when I call your name, Sophia Garcia. Sophia.
Oh, here she.
Wait, Sophia. You got it. I get my old guy glasses. Congratulations. Santiago Cruz.
Do we want to have, Dave, do we want to have them stand up here so they can get the seal behind them? I think that's where we lined up
It's
last
okay
year,
to do
right?
that?
Yeah, totally.
Let's just,
Yeah.
Can we move out of the way so they can get good photos?
I mean, you need the photo.
You're good. So Sophia, come on back up. Okay. Congratulations. Okay.
Yeah.
Santiago Cruz. Okay. Santiago, thank you, sir. Brian David Serrato. Not here, Brian? Serrato.
He's working his way up.
Congratulations, Brian. Walker Lizzo. Congratulations, bud. Asher Knapp. We're gonna need all this space. Congratulations, Asher. Is it Ewan Warren? What is it? A1. Okay. Congratulations. Everly Garcia. You can stand right there, sweetheart. Congratulations. Giovanni Perez. Congratulations. Noel Villa. Down here, bud. There you go. Thanks. Mila. Hong-Tong-Si. 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 Congratulations. Ivana Hernandez. Congratulations. Hazel Coakley. Luca Caballos. Not here. Wyatt Garcia. Congratulations, Wyatt. Daniel Caballos.
He's not here.
Not here either.
He was his brother for Luca.
Okay. Amelia Miller.
Not here. I'm not
He's invisible. Congratulations. Is it? Amalia, sorry. Manuel Uribe. Nicholas Rubio. Nicholas Rubio. Okay. Nicholas, congratulations. Casson Bramson. Kaysen, sorry. Wow. Kaysen, congratulations. Yeah. Alexander Nicolau. Nicolau. I'm getting an education here. Everett Lindsay. Congratulations. And last but not least, Sebastian Silva. Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
We have one more.
Bruce. Bruce McInich. There you go, Bruce. Congratulations, bud. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. Everybody's gonna step up all the way to this, okay? And all the council members are gonna get behind you. We're gonna get a picture of everybody, okay?
Gonna work?
Now,
Hello.
everybody's.
I'm excited. Oh, you probably just typed up.
Hold on, sit back. Here, let's switch here. Hey, okay, I think we got everybody. We got it? Okay, all right.
All right.
Okay, which one do we look at?
This one's right here. Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Cheese.
And then she's gonna take one more and I'm gonna squeeze in here.
Hey, everyone, 1, 2, look this way, Will.
Cheese.
I'm gonna do. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, can you all say thank you?
Yes, we have to do a silly one. There has to be one silly one.
Okay, a
We
silly
have to do
one.
one silly one, okay?
A silly one?
We have to do a silly one. You have this much of us together. We have to do at least one.
You guys all do your silly thing then?
This is the good one. Everyone got a silly face for this? Here we go.
Are you ready? I don't know what's the reading after like that.
I can only do one.
Come on, this fair.
Let's go get it.
Okay.
We did it?
Okay, we did it. We're coming this way, guys. We're coming this way.
You're right. You're right.
That shows up.
No, we don't promote confidence among children.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you for being here tonight.
All right, thank you.
Go right on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, those kids sure know how to clear a room.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you, guys.
We got gold cards.
Wow. Let's hope they can't charge me.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
It's the one good gold card to get.
Yeah.
Accepted in most places.
Add to cart. Yeah.
I know. Parked by the,
Yeah. Lots of parking now.
That's the most we've ever seen of people in here in a happy
Yeah,
mood.
right?
That was so refreshing.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of being all.
Thank you all for being here tonight.
Mhm.
we should do that like.
I didn't
once every
even, I didn't even
couple
realize my
Right?
neighbor was here. There's so
But
many
better.
people in.
Yeah.
months. Are you without chair?
I was wondering why this chair's, wait, this chair's really high. Is that you?
That's good. That was mud.
Oh, that makes sense. Oh, I was gonna say, we may have to ergonomically set for you.
Yeah. Alrighty, moving on to number 8. Proclamation recognizing California Nature Art Museum, formerly the Wilding Museum.
I like cloud. Yeah. What did
Those kids should be going to. Yeah. Yeah.
We should have had you come first for the marketing of that all.
Right?
Right?
Wow.
Come back in.
We got another photo op.
Okay, I will go ahead and read this proclamation. It says proclamation recognizing California Nature Art Museum, formerly the Wilding Museum. Whereas, excuse me, whereas the Wilding Museum was created in 1997 by founder Santa Barbara artist Patty Jacquemin. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
Jacquemin, whose vision was to use art exhibitions as the way to bring attention to the importance of conservation of natural lands, and whereas the mission of the museum is to inspire stewardship of the natural world by inspiring the love of nature through art exhibitions, education, and programs. And whereas over the past 23 years, the museum has curated over 100 exhibitions to creatively explore and promote this mission, along with the offering of hundreds of programs, classes, hikes, movie screenings, and more. And whereas the museum has served more than 150,000 visitors since its inception, both locals and people from all over the world. And whereas the museum has grown and expanded its facility and now owns its building, helping to secure its financial future. And whereas in January 2024, the Wilding Museum is being relaunched as the California Nature Art Museum in order to widen its scope to the amazing natural wonders of the Golden State, most especially our beautiful Central Coast. Therefore, I, Mayor Dave King, on behalf of the City of Buellton, the City Council, I do hereby recognize the newly founded California Nature Art Museum and wish them great success in the future. If you'd like to come up and say something, that would be great.
Thank you so much for this recognition, and Mayor King for coming to the event that we had last week to announce the relaunch. It's been an honor to be at the helm of the Wildling. The California Nature Art Museum. I've almost got it memorized to say that. And I've been a part of a lot of change and growth since I've been there. We are so happy with our decision to move to Solvang and find that building that we're in. And we did that in 2013, bought it in 2017, paid it off early in 2022, which was
Wow.
a big accomplishment, thanks to all our donors and supporters, of course, and hard work as well from the whole team that we have. And with those big accomplishments, our leadership felt that it was time to tackle perhaps another issue, and that was our name. And the fact that most of us had noticed a lot of confusion over wildling or wilding or wilding, and what is it, and who is he, and did he leave us a lot of money when we were founded? So those were the kinds of things that we've been noticing for 20 some years. And people just didn't understand the word, and so they kind of glaze over when you talk to them about, oh, I work at the film, and they just kind of, huh, what is that? So with the leadership meetings and strategy meetings, we came up with the name California Nature Art Museum as a very clear way to identify what we're focused on and what we do and what people are going to find when they come to us. We love our founding, we love our founder, and we love the word wildling, and we're keeping it. The first floor gallery is now the Wildling Gallery, and it's named as such, and you'll see it as soon as you walk in the door. But we're excited to have the outdoor express better who we are, and hopefully then be able to get more visitors in the museum. And we're also excited to not be at the end of the alphabet, which really isn't a small thing. When you talk about listings and different things, the W's at the end. So California, as I think we all know, is an amazing state. It's a complicated state, but there is nothing complicated about the nature that California contains. And we are so very proud to be able to say that that's what we're all about through the art exhibitions and programs that we offer. And it's just also to have a special focus on our region, which is maybe one of the prettiest parts of the state. I think we can all agree on there. So we're very proud to be here, and we're so thankful to you guys for recognizing that. We love partnering with Buellton businesses and schools and whatever when we can. And yes, I do want to get the Boys and Girls Club involved. They need to come and experience us. And kids, by the way, are always free. For families, groups, whatever, school tours, we do them free. We don't charge for those. So also please help spread that word here in your community that we invite that, and we want more of that. And in fact, Rachel is taking pictures. And Rachel Metz is our new assistant director, and she's helping to really build up both our volunteer program and our programming calendar. And invite more schools to participate. So we're grateful to have Rachel here. She's on her 3rd month. I think you're starting your 3rd month just about now. So with that, again, thank you so, so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah, let's do a solo and then a group here.
Don't run away.
Yeah, don't go.
This way, underneath the TV.
Okay.
Yeah, just-
Straight.
Okay,
Yeah,
then we'll get a group photo of all of us.
Yes, she's here. I can hold it for a while.
Good thing on kids things. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm so used to standing next to them.
Okay, perfect. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, would love to, yeah.
All righty. Moving right along. And we have another proclamation, and this is a proclamation recognizing International Holocaust Remembrance Day. Whereas the United Nations General Assembly designated January 27th, the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau as an International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And whereas it is critical to remember the lessons of the Holocaust and pay tribute to its victims and survivors, reject its denial, encourage the development of education programs about Holocaust history, and condemn religious intolerance, incitement, harassment, or violence. And whereas the city of Buellton is committed to countering anti-Semitism, racism, and other forms of intolerance that may lead to group-targeted violence. And whereas the city of Buellton commemorates the lives affected by or lost to the Holocaust by honoring their strength, courage, and bravery, and by working to make sure their stories are remembered. Therefore, I, Mayor Dave King, on behalf of the Buellton City Council, do hereby recognize January 27th, 2024 as International Holocaust Remembrance Day in the city of Buellton and acknowledge and honor the victims of the Holocaust and reassert the city of Buellton's commitment to human rights, presented 25th of January, 2024. And do we have someone that's going to speak on this? Okay, perfect.
Mayor, Council. My name is Susie Margolis Pearson. I actually grew up in this valley. We have a few, well, my brother's Ron Margolis and board member Shoshana Schwartz and her husband David are also here. This is an emotional day. It's especially if you had family who perished. So we meet today to reflect on one of the darkest chapters in human history. It's a day to honor the memory of the millions of innocent lives lost during the Holocaust and to ensure the horrors of the past are not forgotten. It's critical. 77 years ago, the world witnessed the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the concentration and extermination camp. It's a testament to the human capacity for cruelty when fueled by intolerance, prejudice, and unadulterated hate. It is a day of mourning, but it's also a call to action. We all must actively work towards fostering a world where diversity is celebrated, tolerance is embraced, and human rights are protected. We must continue to assure the lessons of the Holocaust are not lost in the annals of history. And education probably plays the most pivotal role at this point in time to assure that the Shoah, which is the Hebrew for Holocaust, never happens again. I had a different number, but my brother researched, there are 245,000 survivors still alive today. 95% are child survivors born between 1928 and 1946 with a median age of 86. Thanks to Steven Spielberg, who founded the USC Shoah Project, Foundation and Project, and he chronicles survivors. He's been doing it for a long time, so there are a lot of survivor stories that can be told. He's started a new one. He's begun collecting video testimonies of the atrocities committed by Hamas terrorists against Israelis on October 7th to add to the Holocaust survivor and witness testimony. Sorry, my son lives in Israel, so when I talk about it, it's a little more emotional. As we witness an alarming rise of anti-Semitism around the world, not just here, it's more of an imperative that we recognize the lessons of Holocaust history, which was true genocide. Thank you for honoring this day. Oh.
Thank you.
I forgot.
No, I have to leave. There you go. There you go. One.
My brother's trying to get
You come over here if you like. Okay. We'll try to-
Oh.
Okay, so that's the whole council. Yes. Let's go.
It feels like I was a high school teacher. Believe me, it feels like that.
Scott, and then Linda.
Got it.
Good.
And then your brother.
You got it?
You wanna get one right here in the middle? Hey.
I think so.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
I do appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Alicia, for this one. Should go forward. Have that one back. And okay. Moving on to public hearings. Any public hearings, Scott?
No public hearings this evening.
Okay, moving on to council member comments or items. We'll start down at the left side with Ms. Lewis. No?
This is for Rose. Hi, Rose. I've been meaning to follow up on this, but the speed checker is still out on Avenue of Flags. I was wondering how that was going. Well, I can circle back on that, but
Yeah, I think it's, can't remember if it's still on Avenue Flags. I thought we had moved it somewhere else in the city. I don't recall,
okay.
when that,
I'll circle back after
Right.
council. The other thing I was gonna say was, this is just to congratulate the mayor for his hard work. Not to blow too much smoke, but I appreciate your efforts in getting the motorcycle officer out on Buellton. I know it took some wrangling. I know it took a lot of dedication. So just a public thank you for your hard work on that.
Thank you, sir.
And I think that's all the comments I have.
Sean?
No, thank you.
David?
A few. I also wanted to say thank you again. I know we were saying, but thank you, Alicia, for bringing this forward. I think it's a kind of a testament when how much energy can come when we bring the community into this. It's a refreshing thing to have many faces here. So thank you all for being here. I did want to follow up further on the back to you, Rose. There was a speed trailer question, but then there was a question we've talked about with a second speed trailer, and if that's still being discussed.
yes, that is, and that isn't, we are applying for an OTS grant. So we can obtain additional funds to purchase the speed trailer, the second speed trailer. But that's still on mine and the city manager's radar.
Thank you. And then the other one I had was I appreciate Ben was very responsive, but over on Valley Vineyard Circle especially, we're seeing kind of a congregation of, maybe it's because the restrooms are available through the village park, but a lot of overnight campers and overnight RVs who are utilizing Valley Vineyard Circle. We already have the trucks that are staying there, but now with that, we're getting a bit more of regular visitors. And I just wasn't sure if there's anything that we as a city can look into about how to handle that. If it's the only place they have available, but then maybe we need to look at supporting, keeping that under control.
The restrooms are closed at night, correct?
Correct.
They self-lock in the evening. Every once in a while, we have an issue with someone who'll come in there and disable the locks, and we'll keep an eye on that. As far as public streets go, if they're legally parked, they're okay. However, if you do notice we've got people living out there, let us know. We'll talk to the sheriff's department, and we'll make sure that appropriate county resources are pointed in their direction.
Okay.
They're pointed in the direction of appropriate county resources so that they can take advantage of a wide variety of programs and resources that are made available to those who may need that assistance.
It also seems to be there's two elements. There's that one for resident, but also from a tourism element. It seems that we have a number of people who are using it as a kind of like free place to stay for a weekend. And that's becoming
Okay.
a bit of the issue. It's like, I don't know if you've ever seen the trend of stealth camping.
No.
So it's where you kind of buy like a Sprinter van, you darken the windows, and then you park it wherever you want. You kind of live out of your van for like, it's a cheap way to travel, which no critique of a cheap way to travel, but it's becoming, that seems to be the popular place. So just more if we could look into how to help deal with that, because it's requiring a lot of work from the community to clean up behind them.
Okay, we will look at that. You mentioned that Ben had contacted the property owners out there. They're on it. If it hasn't been cleaned up already, it will be. They're typically very responsive, but we'll look into the situation with what options we have to prevent that. It may take formal council resolution in the form of no parking signs or something like that. And that's a larger policy issue the council will have to consider if we need to go that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Can we reduce the overnight parking or That's it.
Is there a law against overnight?
There's no law against it at this point, but we can, the city council can by resolution limit overnight parking in certain areas, and that's what we need to bring back. Let me look into that a little bit, figure out what the scope of the problem is, and we'll come back to you with some potential solutions for that.
Thank you.
Okay. I do not have any myself. Written communications, Scott?
No written communications tonight.
All right. Committee reports, Alicia?
None.
I met with the green team for the first time a week or two ago. It's a good meeting. It was unfortunately a little bit short because of my schedule, but we talked a little bit about getting Buellton designated as a tree city. And we're just going to look into how that works and some of our sister cities using ordinances, resolutions to sort of adopt that and what that looks like. But that I'll bring that back to the council at some point in the future.
Okay, Sean?
I went to a CCWA meeting this morning. A nice long meeting, and there's some good things going on. Our water situation just not as good as it was last year, of course, but we're looking forward to possibility of more, so it won't be a big deal. And also the Aquatics Foundation, I don't know. We've been meeting more frequent, and I don't know if we talk about fundraising council or the
Yeah, Kellogg, the fundraiser, yeah.
we hired a fundraising professional to help us so that they go a little deeper and they know a little more people and stuff. So that's part of our deal. So.
David?
I attended the Affordable Housing Task Force today, and I'll be connecting with Andrea and Scott on some of the items came from, including readiness steps for local jurisdictions, which was 8 steps to be ready for a local jurisdiction. So we'll it was riveting, I can tell you. So we'll connect with that later.
8.
Okay. 8 casual steps.
And I, as well as John, went to that aquatics meeting, and as John pointed out, it was mostly about our future fundraising. Also with North County SB CAG and then SB CAG as well, and mostly those were presentations, some updates on some of the projects we have going on and funding. The other one was mostly the selection of chair, vice chair, things like that, because it is the first of the year. Okay, so let's move.
I had a question about that.
Sir.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, and I'm just catching you off guard because we haven't talked about this, but my understanding is BCAG is considering the widening of the bridge that runs between Avenue Flags and Santa Rosa Road. Is that accurate?
Yes, but that's gonna take a lot of money.
Yeah, apparently it's not SB CAG. I think it's County Public
County.
Works.
Yeah, County Public Works.
The
yes.
county's project? Okay,
Yep.
SBCAG then.
No,
No, but it does come up in conversation.
yes.
Okay, and do we know if that's gonna happen?
Well, we don't
TBD.
know at this point. Yeah, the county's
Yeah.
got to come up with funding for it, but I have seen preliminary plans for it. I know it's on their books, and it's something they're working toward. I just don't have a time frame at this
Cool.
point.
Awesome, thank you.
And SB CAG can help with funding on some of these projects that are coming down the road, so that is on the radar.
Good, good.
All right, moving on to business items. This will be business item number 10, consideration of arts and culture project application. A is post office poppies project, and B is Buellton Art Banners project. And lead on this will be Scott Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Before I get started here this evening, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to Buellton's newest employee, Allison Firey. Allison, want to stand up and wave? Allison's our new recreation coordinator, and the reason she's here tonight and the reason I'm introducing her under this particular item is because I am very excited to let everyone know that Allison is going to be taking over the arts and culture program administration from me, which I'm just thrilled about. So this will actually, the program will actually run much more smoothly now that she's there, and she can dedicate a little more time to it than I'm able to. So I'm going to give the reports this evening, but the next time these types of issues come up, it'll be Allison that's here giving this presentation. So thank you for coming tonight.
Do I have to recuse myself because she's my next door neighbor?
Unless you're giving her money, I think we're good. Okay. All right, thank
Go
you.
ahead, Scott.
Mayor and council members, as the mayor pointed out here, we have two project applications which are being forwarded to the city council tonight by the Arts and Culture Committee. They have reviewed these two projects and are recommending city council approval of them. The first project is the Post Office Poppies project. The Post Office Poppies project is requesting funding in the amount of $22,060. And the purpose of this funding is to pay for costs of creating a tile work to be used on the post office poppies. And if you look at the last page of your staff report, you'll see a photo rendering of concept, at least, of what that project might entail. The artists here are here to answer any questions you might have this evening. And I'll leave it at that and let you ask them any additional questions rather than try and put words in their mouth here. The second project this evening is the Buellton Art Banners Project 2024-25. This is requesting funding in the amount of $18,427. The council will recall that we have some arts and culture banners that are currently on display, I believe, on Avenue of Flags. The new banner project proposes to expand, not only to create new banners, but to expand the placement of those banners beyond Avenue of Flags and out onto Highway 246 on poles which are owned by the city. We are not able to place any banners on poles which are owned by PG&E. So that limits our ability to do that citywide. But in this additional location, they are requesting funding for that. Again, the applicant for this particular project is here this evening if the council has any questions. The budget for the Arts and Culture Committee at this point is we currently have $73,500 currently unallocated and available to fund projects. These two projects result in $40,487 of impact to that $73,000. So there's still a considerable amount of funding left after these two projects, should the council approve them. So at this point, I am happy to answer any questions you might have, but honestly, they're much better to answer them than I. And council member Sanchez sits on that committee, and I'm sure he he may wish to add some things as well. Thank you.
Just one quick question, that $43,000, is that fiscal year or calendar year?
That is fiscal year.
Okay. Any questions for staff?
Nope, specific questions for staff. I was actually just curious if you can, I would love to hear from what the Arts and Culture Committee.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Okay, seeing no questions for staff. Anything from the public?
No, sir.
Okay. Then we have a presentation from the applicant.
Hi, I'm Veronica Medina. I am a local business owner. I have Community Clayworks at the end of Industrial Way. One of the things that I found is that by ending up at the end of Industrial Way, everyone tells me, oh, did you know that Michelle Gafool used to have a ceramic studio and made tiles? And I've seen her tiles all over Santa Barbara. Down there, I've seen them in Santa Ynez. And luckily there are two towers that were moved and are at Riverview Park, but otherwise in the downtown, the general public or tourists don't actually get to see a lot of that. And as a local Buellton resident, for me, as an artist and having a local art community-based business, I thought, why not have Buellton be a little bit fancier, a little prettier in terms of our outward appearance, and possibly ultimately having a cohesive, unifying theme. Poppies are native, and I feel like something that we can all rally around. It's like the best weed we could ask for. I noticed that you don't have the color versions over there. I just wanted to say that right now the Arts and Culture Committee has approved to move forward and have you think about this section right here, but we do have a proposal for the full building. I don't know if everything was filled in, but Buellton does own the post office, and the long-term leaseholder, the postmaster, has approved the project. In talking to them, as I ship very often, I was saying, oh, I have this great idea, I'd love to do it. And they were like, oh, how cool would it be if it would be on the side of our building? Like, it needs something, it's bare. And full circle in the months and months leading up to talking about this and meeting with the Arts and Culture Committee, it's kind of this beautiful idea that they kind of came up with the idea and it could possibly be there. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I mean, for me, it serves as a selfie wall. You know, something to take a picture in front of in a beautiful way. The one that's in Pismo currently has started turning up on mugs and t-shirts. So frankly, I think this one would be even more exciting.
I think it's awesome, and I love it, and I was gonna ask why we didn't consider doing the whole building, so I'm glad that you
The higher price tag.
pitched that as well. Yeah, I would think the visitor center, you know, they would get involved in something like this as well, because I think it definitely adds to the appeal of visiting Buellton, so thank you for the idea.
Absolutely. And ultimately, it'd be great, not just this wall, but if other businesses in the area would end up wanting poppies, it could be a really fun unifying theme because it's bright and cohesive. We did put a bid in that we were asked to do for flying flags for their entrance. So apparently we're the design that was liked most, but again, you know, a mosaic is a permanent piece of artwork that will be lasting, right? You just spray it with a hose and it's clean. So it does come with a little bit of a higher price tag, but this is a bargain because we really wanted to do it for the city of Buellton.
Thank you.
Okay.
Misha, any questions? John?
Yeah, I had a question, and I apologize for not making it to the meeting, the last meeting, but we had at one time, we had a price tag for the whole building.
Yes.
And, do you remember what the figure was for
Off the top of my head, I don't, but it was closer to 100.
Oh, yeah,
And the square footage, when you actually look at the height of the building, it's quite high, so.
Yeah, that's what, this looks really nice and,
Is
I
it
appreciate it.
the type of art that you could do an installment on
Yes,
and get to the
absolutely.
full building?
Absolutely,
So approving this today is not gonna preclude doing the whole building.
absolutely. Regardless, it would take time to do it in sections, so if by the time, the goal would be to start it now and have installation in September.
Nice.
Because we would want to color match to these poppies and get the texture just right. You know, if you have a selfie wall, you have to consider things like, you don't want something, even when you're driving, that reflects light. So you don't want a tile that's very high shine. You want something that's more of a satin finish. So getting it just right and testing it so that we're really happy with the result matters. Because again, it's, you know, my business's reputation on the line too.
A nice billboard.
Yeah.
David?
I had a few questions for you. So I always kind of look at arts and culture as this like extension of promoting arts and culture within the city. And so it helps because I actually didn't realize now scrolling to the side, I didn't realize the image I needed to move to the right because I was like, oh, it's a nice blank wall. I wonder what, I was like, it's very, very avant-garde what you were going with. So I appreciate to now see what's happening. Yes, that now makes more sense to me.
No newspaper.
No newspapers will be, I saw that note. So my question was, is there any, I always think of it as like when funding things of this sort, there has to be some kind of, maybe it's an outreach or an educational component. Has there been discussion about maybe involving local schools to come and see the process of creating the tiles or engaging local businesses to feature them? Like, I just was wondering, is that a discussion that you're open to having with these types of things? Because it seems like taking on a community art project is a missed opportunity to also educate students on celebrating art in a community. And so I just wanted to know, has that been discussed at all?
A little bit. I put together a statement of work that is different than what the proposal that Buellton asks for.
Mhm.
And in that one, I made it clear that I would be documenting the entire process, start to finish, so that on social media, the entire process would be documented. So it's a way for everyone to follow this, and obviously we would want press.
Mhm.
We already do a lot of, Buellton Rec has come to the studio and just done little walkarounds, a little lesson of how the studio works and get demonstrations. So we do that independently, but I would love to connect it to this project in particular so they get to see the entire process. It's a great idea.
Yeah, so that's kind of just the lens I come at. Is like if I could, I would love to hear about there being this idea of like we're bringing the senior center, we're bringing students to it just to see, because it's like if it's an investment that has an emotional attachment to the rest of the community. It's much more, I understand a selfie wall, but a selfie wall also needs to feel like it's ownership of everyone within that. And so I just wanted to make sure that that's something that we could like add as a layer to it, just to make it a more enriching experience for the community.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm kind of concerned about a couple of things. One, there wasn't a breakdown in the application of the amount. It just says $22,000.
So in terms of the breakdown, if I'm being completely blunt, we are really not paying ourselves what we should be for this. And because of that, we're being cautious, because if we're paying ourselves what we should be paying ourselves, it will be a much higher price point. And for future projects in the city here or with other businesses, we wanted to be mindful a little bit of making it very clear that we cared about having a public artwork that we got to participate in. So the image of what that would look like from a business perspective of why was it this price here, when was it that? So to be very clear, like, we are very excited to do something like this. We care about it. So it's a pet project for us. So in terms of price breakdown, I can do that. When you actually look at materials and everything else, it's an incredibly generous price. But I'm happy to give the price breakdown. It will make it very clear that our labor is not being accounted for as like a real cost.
Right. Who's doing all the work?
Myself, one of my other staff members, Stacy Curry, will be the two primaries. And then other employees will pick up different pieces as the process is progressing. Because the firings will have separate firings, but every once in a while we might stick something in with the other pots that are going through the kiln. So with clay, a lot of it is very time-based, because you have to control moisture level. So you may think something that's flat might be so easy to make, but having it dry really evenly so you don't get any warping, right? Because you have to make sure everything fits together like a puzzle and it's all very flat. So ensuring all of that means that rotating like drying racks and things like that are a thing. So what goes in the kiln when ends up becoming something that's just a variable. So in that sense, this is like a pet project, art project that Stacy and I will do. And then my business is just sort of, you know, I get to do it within my business because it's my thing.
So I would be more inclined to go with the direction that Council or Vice Mayor Soba is going, that in my mind, that these projects that community is spending money on, you know, should have not just selfie wall that you call it, is that it can also be an education, you know, and that's really what our arts and culture is all about, is that people come in from our community here in Buellton, if we're going to spend their tax dollars, is that they're also, you know, learn something from that. Like all these projects that we've had prior to this, the kids painting on hubcaps or the murals on the walls and things like that. Those are all things that kids get educated to, or even other people in the community that, you know, have a, you know, maybe have a background in art, but, you know, really have not come out of the woodwork. So I would be in favor of this project if that were a caveat of this, is that people get involved, not just you doing the work and the city spending taxpayer money. Is that amenable to you?
Involved in what way? I just want to clarify what.
Well, you like,
involvement.
like as you're doing it, or they could see the process of how these tiles are being made, you know, you might inspire some people to say, hey, I'd like to do that too. Or as you're putting it on the wall of how to do it and how it sticks to the wall with, you know, you got to use mastic or something or whatever that you're putting on the wall, that people could get an education as well as something that could be artwork in the future.
I think that having open hours where it's come see the demonstrations of the mosaic being made, and it's open question and answer sessions with the artists.
Right.
On the weekends even, we could announce them publicly so they can come and see what the process is like and how we're doing it. Absolutely.
Right, like some of these junior high school kids that we have, for kids from the high school that maybe live here in town and they're budding artists, and they say, hey, I never thought of doing that, or, you know, how can I make that, or, you know,
and you're giving them an education as well as giving them a piece of art.
Absolutely. It's a wise thing to do. I mean, I'm an art educator, right? My master's is in art education. For me, I've taught 6th through 12th grade most of my career. So for me, that's actually my sweet spot and I really enjoy that. So I welcome that kind of interaction.
Right.
I think if we also work with partnership with like the Chamber of Commerce and things where it's bringing in, I'm a fan of lifelong learning. So I think we open that up and I think there could be a really fun way to engage this where it's enriching to the community. Because to me, what you just explained with moisture and everything, I'm like riveting, never would have thought of that. And it's just like, I was like, well, there's $2 I earned on just like tips and tricks of kiln and things. So I think it's a fascinating process. And I think that adds a really great element of bringing the community together for it. So I'm so grateful you're open to doing something like that.
I will just add a comment that I do think there is some intrinsic value in just having a beautiful art piece installed. I think there's a community benefit to that. So, and education is great as well, but I do want to just put that on record.
Well, maybe we could have a progress, but as you're progressing, we have a weekly or a monthly water bill go out and has the Buellton stuff. Maybe we could have how far we are on it or something like that,
That would be fun.
And then it would then you'd get people that wouldn't see it in February would see it in March or the next say, oh, that's interesting. And they'd be able to introduce to it and maybe come to see more people, the better to come visit and learn more and help your business as well as people come in, start learning.
Absolutely. And for the installation, I think having the installation be something that is an event
Yeah.
in a way where people get to come by and watch it and see like day by day how much goes up would be really fun too.
I think that'd be fun to include in it.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Linda?
No, sir.
I will give staff another opportunity to weigh in on this.
This particular project, no, but we do have another project that is up for consideration. You can take the motion. I think you should probably take the motion separately,
Right.
but whether you go to motion now or hear the second one and then do them both.
Okay, I will do that. And I'm going to bring that back to council for any further questions or possibly motions.
I just had a quick question of like, we just gave a lot of like to a business owner who's doing something that's clearly like below cost of what they should be doing. Is that something that can be supported by, like, we just brought like all the different ways to partner within the community? Is that something that the Arts and Culture Committee can like facilitate with so that it's not just, you don't want to just be like, and add some extra hours of labor that is already not being compensated if we approve this project. So I just want to see if the Arts and Culture Committee can assist with making what we just talked about happen.
I'll work with the Arts and Culture Committee and Allison can spearhead this as we move forward. But the city has a number of different avenues with which we can reach out to the community, put out some of the information about the event type proceedings that happen along the way. If they're producing videos and such, we can use our social media, we can use our website, we can use Buellton Engage to get that information out to the public as well and bring them into the process.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that didn't fall on the backs of the person who's already doing a lot of stuff.
We will be more than happy to help with that.
Okay.
And do you have Instagram?
See, it's catching on, John.
I'm glad somebody said something.
I almost said Instagram, but I thought that was a
Wow.
little too much there.
They
Okay,
can make a tile with a little thingy that you scan on your.
Right.
Yeah, QR code, and it will pop
Okay.
up your business and the
Okay.
progress, so.
I will bring this back to council for a possible motion on 10A.
I move to approve.
I'll second it. I did, but I was gonna say something before we moved to motion, but I did want to say that what the mayor was talking about with a breakdown of costs could potentially help us in the future for if we were going to expand this project to the full wall. And if it was just like a description of how much labor cost and it was discounted to meet whatever price target you were thinking of, then we could just say, hey, we didn't spend X amount of dollars on a selfie wall. We saved all this money on making something beautiful for the city. And that's all I was going to comment on. And so seconded the motion.
Linda?
Okay, Councilmember Lewis.
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick.
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silva.
Aye.
And Mayor King.
Aye. And moving on to the Buellton Art Banners Project.
Well, I think you guys have seen the banners. So we've already done it once, but I do want to say that it's not just the banners. This is like a cause marketing campaign as well for the city of Buellton. So we do the social media. We do a press release each month announcing the thing. We have gotten press out of it. So it's not just banners, even though banners are the focus of what it is, because that's, I think, draws attention to the town. Again, so you're not just driving right through this. And that's one of the things we focus on. We do have a component for education. So
Reading the room, huh?
we do. Last year, we went to 5 classrooms. And I created a lesson with my sister. That's look at the sponsors, and that's Cat and Squirrel. My sister is cat and I'm squirrel. So we created a cartoon, like talking about how to like expand your creativity. So it wasn't just puffy clouds with jelly-filled donuts. That's not what the flower had to be. It could, you could get funky with it. So that we created that. The kids saw the cartoons, and then we went in and with them. So that was really fun and really great to see, because these kids were amazing. I mean, we did get some community participation. So we did get literally ages like 5 to 78. That would be a clarification. I said 75 on the website, but no, 78. So we had 36 community artists that we used last year. I'm hoping to use more, but yeah. It's kind of a repeat, just extending it to more banners.
So I have a question.
Any questions, Alicia?
Yeah, I was going through the backup material and it looks like you have a proposal for, I think it would be next year, looking at banners to start with advertisements and selling advertisements to help defray the costs.
Yeah, not this year.
Yeah, next year. And then does that deferral of ads also go with the paid sponsorships, or would you be doing the paid sponsorships?
The sponsorships would be on the banners if we can do that, but that's going to take signing ordinance.
Okay, so that the
changes.
sponsorships are included. Okay.
It would, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just wanted to make sure.
Cause otherwise it's either gonna be like a reoccurring cost each year for the city, which, as a small business owner, I don't, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
You wanna make sure you're paying for what you're doing. So if we can do the sponsorship, then hopefully you guys wouldn't have to do the grant.
Right.
And we could save that money for other projects.
Perfect.
That's cool. Is it a Zazzle store? Is that like, you can just buy the art on cups and t-shirts and stuff?
Exactly. And that's part of the additional goals if we get more sponsors, because it just takes so much time to put it together. So, yeah. But I did with clarification, the nonprofit that I was hoping to partner with, they said that it's not going to work for them this year. So I either have to find another nonprofit, or we just have to not do the nonprofit.
I had a comment. I was in Los Olivos, and my father was telling me their daughter told him, "Oh, I have artwork on the avenue," and he was like, "Yeah, right, sure, And she goes, "No, really, Dad, and he didn't believe it, and so then he didn't even realize it, and then him and she has and her stepdad did it together, and they were saying how cool it was, and they asked if they could get one of these banners, so because they wanted one their daughter's famous, downtown. So it was a big deal for this is a little girl, I think she was 10 or something, but it was just a nice family surprise, and they didn't realize it, and they were both so excited about it. So the draw in the families and is people's grandparents come to town and run over there to see their grandchildren's work, and it's anyway, I want to thank you for that. That's a really nice addition, and I think having this on 246 right now, you have to I think we have a lot more traffic on 246. I would appreciate it where it's down there's a lot. It's prevalent, but if it was on 246, I think.
Yeah, last year we didn't have the funds to do the whole thing, so we decided to centralize it as much as we could. But,
Yeah, I think let's stop, let's get people to slow down.
Yeah.
Leave the town.
Calm down.
Yeah.
You better enjoy the scenery.
I guess unfortunately, let me restart. When trying to follow your price breakdown, I did find I was just confused of like breakdown at 1.5 hours per cost, 3,300. So like convert artwork to digital format planning for 40 pieces. Is that each piece takes an hour and a half or, okay, so it was to convert 40 pieces of art, each one takes about an hour and a half, which works out to 60 hours, which is the $3,300 cost. And so each one, so create a compilation of 14 banners. 14 banners takes an hour per, and that's how you were totaling up the cost for that. Okay, so that clears up one thing of just trying to understand that piece. The other one I was curious about is that, like, I mean, I admit that I've always enjoyed the fanged flower eating the hand-drawn butterfly and things like I like the nuance of all of that. And so I was curious when it came to this, I tried to think of like, again, back to the like community engagement with it. Was this coordinated at all with like the botanical gardens and connecting like floral education and botany and things like that? So I know you're going with marine science. Is there an element of coordinating with our local schools of like putting that involvement with that?
You know, I tried,
Mhm.
like the lesson that we had was like much more extensive and I like the lesson that we created, we gave to the teachers and we're like, here, this is the whole lesson that like covers all these common core things. And they didn't do it.
Okay.
So instead I had to like say, can I make this video and just show this video and come in and like, that worked. So
Mhm.
the big educational thing, we did try it, but it didn't
Take, okay. Yeah, because it's one of those things where like, as you hear the narrative of like art being cut from schools, so then nonprofits are stepping in, but they have to be given the space to do so. And so I was just wondering, and then like, has there been things, I know we have a number of like children's, like not children nonprofit activity groups. I know that Ali, you're aware of half of them in there. Were you coordinated with those or was it just school outreach?
It was me and Stacy, the
Okay.
other girl that was doing it at the same time, but she's not doing it this year, so it's just me this time. So I'm trying to more volunteers would be great.
And is that something, now coming back to that question of deleting all these things of it, is that something that if we were to coordinate and fund this project, that we could work with like Buellton Rec and things like that to make this more of a educational process, even to the degree of like, I mean, I remember watching videos about trucks for some reason. That was like my big excitement. But it's like seeing banners being hung can be an exciting thing, or even like those kind of event things. Are those things that you're open to and stuff like that?
Totally open to it. It's just, yeah, it's a matter of coordinating.
And staffing and resources and all of that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So here's what I have a little problem with, and maybe we can drill down into this, is you're trying to get funding for this, you know, perpetual funding for this, so you don't have to keep coming back to us. So is this plan that you have to do water bottles and books and cards and things of that nature, and that's to fund your nonprofit, correct?
It's not gonna get much money from the Zazzle store. The Zazzle store is more of an opportunity for the parents and the community members to get their art, like the child's art on a mug or on a t-shirt or on a poster, so that they can take it home with them. It's my experience with Zazzle stores is you can set them up pretty easily, but at the same time, it's not gonna be a big fundraiser thing. It would be great if it was, but I doubt it.
So the one thing is this advertising says Black River programs, city banner and all this. These are what you intend on selling to people, but also putting their advertisement on it, correct?
Not this year, next year, hopefully, depending on if the siding ordinance has changed.
You know, we need to change, in order for this to be allowed, essentially it equates to offsite signage for business. We'd have to change the city zoning ordinance to allow an exception for this type of banner to be used.
And I have a bit of a problem with that, because then we're gonna start putting up advertising on Avenue Flags rather than spending this money towards artwork, and then it becomes, and now we have ads all the way down the Avenue Flags.
Through that discussion, the applicant has decided to bring this forward now without the logos on it. And to wait and have that discussion with the city over the next year, so we can sit down with the council and decide what the council's tolerance toward this is. If you decide, you know, you don't want the offsite advertising on these banners, then it would go away, and then they would have to come up with another way to recoup costs for that in the future. But for this, what they're asking for here, the funding they're asking for pays for it entirely, and there is no advertising placed on the banners for this coming year.
Or it doesn't continue.
Mhm.
It's either we find a way to fund it or.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Anything from the public?
No, sir.
Anything on Zoom? No? I'll give staff an opportunity to. Any other?
Nothing further unless the council has questions for me.
Okay, I will bring it back to the city council for further discussion and a possible action. Lisa?
Just I'd like to find a way, I don't necessarily know that advertising is the way to do it, but I do like the Zazzle store and letting parents purchase things if their kids or even their own artwork gets picked. I would like to explore ways to do it annually that don't cost just arts and culture funds, if it's possible, or even offset it, maybe just reduce the costs. But I do like the idea of getting our kids and our, our citizens involved in art projects, tangible things that they can see every day.
Yeah, I'll second that idea too. It's great, I think, for the community outreach and like Councilmember Sanchez was saying, I mean, the community loves it. And it's a chance for the kids to get some of their artwork seen publicly. I think that's such a bright lights sort of experience for them. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you, John.
I think that's a bit, like I said, it's a big deal. The kids see their art downtown. It's a dream come true. It's a big time for them. And I appreciate all the work you've done with that, and I hope we find a way to fund it in the future.
I guess I have a question for the applicant again or something, but there's the 18, I know there's like the different levels here at C, D, and E, 18,000 going forward, 16,000, 18,700 and all that. May I ask what causes it to decrease going forward?
The hanger costs.
Okay, so once you buy them, you can just reuse them over and over. So hanger with no hanger costs. Okay, that's the physical hanger, not like the hanging of. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
The city owns that.
Okay, so the city takes care of the actual hanging of them.
Banners the poles belong to the city, and so the city staff hangs banners. They do it. City staff hangs the banners that the Visitors Bureau puts up, and then as well with the arts and culture banners.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think again, it comes down to that one where this is not a sustainable model, and I would be concerned about 20% of the annual budget for arts and culture to be kind of earmarked for this. So I think that we as a council, if we do find this of a value, and I agree with everyone that said that there's a value added to it, but I think we may have to have some reckoning internally of how to make this a sustainable one, because to just drain 20% of arts and culture year over year doesn't seem like a useful way to keep this alive. And so it's a project that needs to be supported, but yet in a way that isn't, I think, crowding out other applicants as well. So I just worry about that piece. But I think that until we figure out our sign plan and concerns of ads and things, we may need to get a bit creative here very soon. That's what I'm here for. I said it in a vice way, though. Yeah, it was in a vice way.
A little softer.
And I agree with David on this, is that I think this is a little ambitious, and using up that much of a resource for our arts and culture kind of cuts other people out. There's one option here to do just Avenue of Flags. And I think that, historically, we have been trying to get people to come to Avenue of Flags for one reason or another, and as we progress forward, as we start to develop Avenue of Flags, I think that these kind of projects should be on the area that we are really trying to draw people to. So on one of these, on it's page 45 in the top, says just Avenue of Flags, and that's about $12,000. I think that would be, justifiable for this, the expenditure of this, because if you look at the map there on 45, it's pretty ambitious. Down industrial, it's all Avenue of Flags, there's a lot on 246, et cetera, et cetera. So I would like you to consider that maybe we could just do Avenue of Flags for this particular project, keep that cost down to 12,000. And I'll defer to John, has a comment. Go ahead.
I was just thinking, looking at the map on the two, I really want the 246 because just for the, like I said, a lot of people don't go up Avenue Flex, but everybody comes down, through 246. But there's going to be development at Piece of Anderson's and the part across the street, and if there's a way that we could put that into an incentive for the builder that, or is there just a request that to consider part of this as their contribution to the community? I don't think I can't see requiring it, but I would like to present it as something that they could do to help the community because we're gonna need banners or want banners in that corridor. And that'll be the same as putting in a sign or a light, basically. And then maybe the other property owners would follow suit. So.
Just tell you, we did approach it, like all of the businesses, and we got 2 paid sponsors, so, yeah, I would hope to get more, but. Yeah, that's why I'm looking at doing the nonprofit organization, because I'm hoping if they're incentivized with the tax write-off, that they'll do that, but, I'll have to find them or become a nonprofit.
So if I understand what was Dave, were you just wanted to do the 12, but
Well, there's a breakdown of the number of banners.
was that a motion for?
Yeah, that's what Dave is saying, is that he would be more comfortable with the option A, which is the 12,935, but you're really not saving a whole heck of a lot. I had a question for Chanel. How often have we gone through all of our arts and culture funds and needed to request more? Or has it happened before?
It hasn't happened yet. That's why it's been rolled over the past few budget cycles.
So in light of the fact that we haven't gone through all of our arts and culture funds, and we haven't had a situation where we are seemingly turning people or projects away that come to us for lack of funds, my suggestion or my thought would be, let's go with C, get it everywhere this year, but know that we need to find a way, as we feel that this is important, to fund it ongoing. See if there's something that the city can do to help participate in that and help support getting this funded in another way.
I'm just gonna pitch in and say that, unless I cut you off, I don't want.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and say that option C also has, you're going forward with less cost because they are hanging new banners in places that weren't hung before. So it's an $18,427 cost now, but 16, closer to 17 going forward. So I have to agree with Council Member Lewis and Sanchez that it would really be cool to see it on 246 as well. And yeah, so I'm inclined to go with option C, since that is the option recommended by the committee.
All right, I hear and I understand where you're coming from with that. I guess my concern, and it just keeps coming back to, is that we as a council then need to prioritize figuring out not just the allocation of staff time, like we just have been talking about, to make this a successful program. So we need to keep that as mind, like this is becoming a priority, but also then to finance this going forward. I think then we will have to make that uncomfortable decision in the future. And so we may need to start socializing options sooner rather than later. So it's not just kicking the can down and doing again of like, ooh, do we cut it now? And that will feel very awkward. And I do have to say, A to me is an attrition situation where we would shrink what's going on, because B is at least maintaining what it is. So when you start shrinking a program, it gives the semblance of it's a decreasing investment. So I would be cautious of going with A, just because that'd be less than what we currently have it up on banners. Oh, so Avenue plus all existing banners is
Down here, or like on the other side of 246, and then there's some on 246.
Girl, I'm justifying growing the program here. You just messed me up. Okay.
Over here.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Okay, then I retract that. I'm done.
So let me get that clear. B is basically all of these that you already have,
Right.
plus the ones on Avenue Flex.
Additional hanger cost.
Oh.
That would be-
Okay, well, that makes more sense to me.
So the whole, so the 22, is that just in there so to flirt with us?
You say you need more options.
You could do industrial Ave too.
I like
Do
the
industrial
industrial way myself too.
Whoa.
You could
what's that?
marry our defined economic corridor and our organic economic corridor with the banners.
Well, that's where, that's where our arts and culture is going with we already have the industrial eats that has the artwork there. And then we're also we have artwork at Figueroa Mountain Brewery as well. We have actually a poppy banner there. And I would like to extend our arts into the industrial way area.
You
It's
may-
only
Sorry, you suggested
$4,000 more.
You may just want to pull a chair up at this point. You're coming
Make
back.
the motion.
Oh, that actually was Scott's brilliant idea to try and look at industrial way. I got a bit.
Well, the light poles on industrial actually belong to the city, and so there's not any issue with PG&E. They're brand new, they're industrial looking, so hanging banners on it might actually
And they would be lit
enhance
at
the
night,
streetscape,
right?
yeah.
They would all be
I
lit
dig
at
it.
night.
Sure.
I would move to approve option E.
I would second it.
What a yo-yo of a meeting, okay.
Bring back to council for a possible motion.
Done.
Do we have any
Was
public
motion.
comment on this?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay, I will bring it back to council for a possible motion.
I repeat my motion for E.
Seconded.
Linda?
Okay, if it's Councilmember Sanchez already seconded.
That's fine.
Right.
That's fine. You can have a second.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Lewis,
Aye.
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silva,
Aye.
and Mayor King.
No. Okay, moving on to.
Thank you for coming and I'm looking forward to seeing.
Yes, for.
That was a yes for E.
Go home. Have a good night.
You got a lot of
Stick
work
around.
to do. Thank you for coming.
What a dynamic evening this is. You just don't know where
I
anything's
just wanted to
going.
just bring it out there.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Instead of email, they had to write it.
Sorry, but I think it's cool, and I think we should.
I'm hiring me a new council.
We really, we are all committing to, we can't do that every year, right? Like,
Right.
we're all like, we now,
Committing to that?
What?
What's the Arts and Culture Fund? We set aside money for this. I'm happy to see it up there.
I know.
We have a way to do it without.
also on the Arts and Culture Committee application, it says that there's a rule to like not fund the same project year after year after year to encourage other projects.
That's
Yes.
the preference, yeah.
Yes, that's the preference. And
But if we're
also
not getting
each,
other projects, we have money sitting there.
and the art changes every year.
Look, I don't need to die on this hill of defending art. It's just weird for me to be on this side with you.
Quit. Okay, moving on to number 11. Identification of 2024 recognition of cultural heritage observance, and this will be city manager Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you'll recall from your last meeting, there was a discussion of the process to be used for determining cultural heritage observances and other recognitions. The city council discussed a number of different categories of recognition. Those categories are discussed within the staff report. The second two, I think there was general agreement on the part of the city council from. The first one, however, was left open with the direction from the mayor to the city council to bring back potential observances that the council would like to see made a part of the city's program this year. As you recall, back last year, the city council directed that we look at an annual enumeration of these types of observances to take place. The first one, which was approved 2 weeks ago, the January 25th meeting was, or no, this is the January 25th meeting, sorry. The prior meeting, whatever that was, January 12th or 11th, sorry. The city council did observe the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And so that was the first, tonight's proclamation was the first of those. So what we're looking for this evening is an enumeration of additional observances the city council would like to have throughout the year. And just a general acknowledgement that the process outlined in the staff report is the way we want to move forward. And if it's not, direction as to which way the council would like to see us go with that. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
If I may, a quick question. So this doesn't preclude us from having a different observance at a different time, right?
No, what's going on here with this is, the council's desire previously was to, meet in December or January. I think we figured January was the month to do it, and we would just move and approve them all the way through January the following year. Those special observances throughout the year. If some observance came up in the meantime between those January dates, a request could be made of the city. Staff would bring it back to the city council on a consent calendar item. If the council wanted to go for it, it would just be approved, and we would bring it back with a proclamation in a couple weeks. If the council did not like it for some reason, they could call it off, discuss it, decide as a group whether or not to add that to our list and go forward.
Is there a reason it has to be 60 days prior to the proposed date? Or
Yes,
is there a reason?
because the object for that is we need time to bring it to the city council and have the council act on it before a proclamation is prepared. The last thing we want to do is bring a proclamation to the city council for presentation and have the city council as a body decide that night, no, we don't want to do this.
Okay.
We want to have that opportunity to have that discussion in advance if that's what the city council would like to do.
Any questions for staff?
Oh, excuse me.
Lisa?
No, thank you.
John?
Nothing at this time.
Lisa?
No.
David?
I'm good.
Okay, any input from the public?
I apologize.
No, sir.
I thought what I was wondering to, are we gonna have the observations on a consent calendar before the following meeting? Was that the plan? So it would be, if we were gonna have an observance next meeting, we would have it on, we would have been on our consent calendar this meeting. So if somebody said, I want that, or I want it better, I want more, or I want that.
Unless it's on the list that we're preparing right now. If you put it on this list now, it does not need to come back. If you want it, if somebody wants to come in and add theirs to the list later, we would put it on the meeting prior at least.
I do appreciate that it's very observance, and it's instant, this came up, and things that come up are going to come up without planning. So when they do, we do have the freedom to add, or something coming up. I appreciate we still have that option. So and I think we can handle everything that comes up.
Nothing, David?
No, I think I hear what you're saying, John. The main reason this was brought up is that I found that if there was all of us have things we want to do. If there was let's say 3 cultural heritage observances you wanted to, it would be in council comment brought up in one meeting. And then it would be brought up for discussion at the next meeting. And then it would be a proclamation presented at the following meeting, which means anytime you do anything, it was 3 meetings of discussion. And so this was just to try and streamline the process so we could get a few of these baselines done. And then there still can be the organic ones, but this way it doesn't have to be so much like that, kind of the optics of and now we're talking about another one. So this was a way for us to be able to make this very easy for all of us to kind of build a calendar out, and then be able to identify for Linda to get those nice frames ready, and for us to find people to receive them so we can plan for that.
Okay. I would just want to say I appreciate the spontaneity, and thank you staff for taking care of it so quickly. And we did a good job.
So
Thank you.
So Scott, we can prioritize those at a future meeting. This is basically a baseline, what you're talking about, this particular item. So if we want to say, it has to be agendized, obviously, is that if we want to pick a certain number of months or days for either a proclamation or a certain month, we can agendize that at a future meeting. It has to be a public meeting for us to.
What we would do, what we're hoping you'll do is give us a list of those for the year tonight that we can move forward with. In the future, as things come up, if one of you decides, hey, I think we missed one, we might want to add it, we can bring it back, we put it on consent calendar. And what we would need after tonight is an affirmative direction from the city council to issue that proclamation. What I don't want to do is come to the council with a proclamation that doesn't have council support. So some things are fairly benign. Somebody, if we have a local football team winning a championship, that's.
Boy
something we don't-
Scout, Boys and Girls Clubs.
The Boys and
getting it,
Girls Club, if we wanted to do that, yes, local nonprofit events. But where we get into something that might not be as,
Politically controversial.
well,
Right.
may not be as universally embraced by the community, then we need to, I want the council to weigh in on that so that it's not resting on my shoulders to make the decision as to what's coming with a proclamation.
So are you all prepared with your list of things you want? Because I am prepared, and I know you are prepared.
I've
I
been
can
prepared for
see it.
2 meetings waiting for this conversation.
So we're about to just have a list and then we're gonna vote on the list, yes or no, is that what's happening?
Are we voting or are we just trying to compile like by consensus?
All I
vote,
need is
right?
consensus that these are the items you want to place, and we will bring them forward at the appropriate time and make sure that the appropriate parties are contacted to come and receive the proclamations. Again, it doesn't
Started with
lock
the
in
100+1
anything
Last meeting.
other than we know we're gonna do these going forward. It doesn't preclude anything from being added as we go.
And I think we also agreed this isn't an annual perpetuity thing. It's revisited every year to rebuild the calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, so
Like
you
it's
can
not
change
forever.
it because they're, like we said, if you're gonna do months, there's only 12 of them.
Mhm.
So we can't take them all up and that be in perpetuity.
But didn't you like reading 3 proclamations tonight? I think it was
Oh,
really
that's
nice.
fantastic.
We're really gonna work on your diction.
But once again, you guys, if you have proclamations that you want to bring, you have recipients, right?
Yeah.
That you want to receive them, because we kind of don't know
Yeah.
who that might be. So,
We're happy to contact them and let them know when that would take place, but we need your assistance in getting that
Just-
contact information to us.
I don't, thanks.
I honestly think, Scott, that all proclamations, other than ones that we've done historically, should be put on consent. And that gives any council member here the opportunity to pull that off for discussion.
But what happens like the one in the guy in the car? Like I didn't know about that till I saw the agenda, but I fully supported it. It wasn't like I wouldn't have like things like that. Then you're saying that it needs to come to consent before we can do it or recognize it. I feel like Scott knows pretty well, like he pulled someone out of a car accident, like your, local hero, like why would any of us say no kind of thing? I feel like he has enough wherewithal to understand what should be placed just on the agenda and what should come to us. And I think that would be your preference, right?
Sure.
It's my preference to not have to have 50,000 meetings.
As an
about it.
example, and I'll use this just because it's one that popped into mind here. Our county animal services may come to us and ask for a proclamation for adopt a pet month, something like that. I think that's pretty basic. I don't think it's an issue. I don't think anybody from the council would object to that.
They have-
However, if they came to us and
Yeah,
and asked for, if they asked for a proclamation acknowledging the county's capture, neuter, and release program, that's something that doesn't have universal support typically, and there's a lot more debate going on about that particular issue. So I would not bring that to the city council unannounced without bringing it on consent calendar first.
If I may, actually, I agree with Dave. Take a moment to let that sit in, but I actually
This
think.
has been a shocking meeting.
Yeah. I actually think that having a uniformity of how you handle it also changes. I don't personally appreciate the idea of like, which ones are controversial, which in itself lends itself to be like, if Scott put something on the consent calendar, it immediately others it from like, well, no one would have an issue with this, but someone may have an issue with this, which in that itself kind of changes the tonality of like, well, we would need to make sure no one's offended, where it's like, if we keep it uniform across the way, we're treating everything as the same, which is kind of the goal of all of this. It's like, I would like it to be the same, where it's like, if we're honoring Boys and Girls Club gold cards and we're talking about Hispanic Heritage Month, it's the same process for that. And it allows us to be like, we don't see it any differently. And that removes the subjectivity of the idea of like controversial, which I think in itself is a poor choice of words for us to have for that.
And yes, I do agree with that. And that we don't really have that many proclamations other than tonight. That would be that much of an issue to just put on consent, because that way, any one of these people sitting up at this dais could say, I want to pull that off for discussion. And it's prior to it being a proclamation. You know, because sometimes we just get proclamation on
Sure.
our,
Mhm.
you know, our packet.
So I will say that if that's what the direction the council wants to go, that's fine. We can accommodate that, but I will need to let you all know that some of the spontaneity for some of these things will not be there, because we're going to request that they submit requests for these proclamations 60 days in advance. And by the time we get around to actually honoring someone for something, the moment may be gone.
Yeah.
And that's,
That's what I was thinking, we could do 30.
well, the problem with 30 is I need time to get it on a consent calendar, a consent agenda. And then we need to wait 2 weeks or maybe more, depending on the month, if there's not 2 meetings that month. 60 days gives us a good amount of time. During the holidays, 60 days may just be barely enough. The rest of the year, 60 days might be a little more than we need. But if we have a standard of 60 days, then I don't have to start sweating. Do I have enough time to get this on an agenda? And it really is more of an issue than you might think. So.
I like the way Scott has it listed out. If you read the backup on the agenda, he spells out cultural heritage observances, those types of things. They need to be identified. Special achievements or events. That's like, you know, I pulled someone out of a car after a car accident. That's a special achievement or an event or something like that, that like, it might take a little bit of the.
I'm open to
Cause I
that.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Well, isn't the inherent idea of a proclamation, and this is honestly just talking about this way more than I ever thought I would, but isn't the whole idea of a proclamation something that is inherently like universal of the body, and we all come to a consensus and say, yes, we promote and support this? If it's something one-off, like, hey, good job on getting that motorcycle officer, we can say that during comments, right? I mean, that's something that would be spontaneous and be like, hey, I just wanted to acknowledge this and say that.
With a verbal acknowledgement, that's correct. If you wanted an official city proclamation to be presented to somebody for something, that's.
In which way I think it should, you know, potentially be a consent calendar item, right? Because then we all see it and say, okay, yeah, I agree with this or not.
And what we will, I envision what we will
60 days from
see
now.
on the consent calendar is a standing item on the consent calendar that just says upcoming proclamations. And the only backup you're going to get in that is that item with a potential list of upcoming proclamations for the following meeting. And that way, you know, we're not dedicating a lot of staff time to writing staff reports.
Right.
and-
I wouldn't do
because-
any of that.
Yeah, that's where the timing really gets to be problematic.
I also think it's like, to me, there's the one where I would almost rather the caveat of like 60 days from an external, like, I mean, I don't know, it's almost, I would rather empower, I agree, I hear what you're saying, 60 days removes the spontaneity. So I don't want to overcomplicate this, I don't want to make this more difficult, it's spelled out that way. I think then, if we want to go with what's currently here and we don't want to go the consent calendar, I just think we need to be mindful of the language used of not having it be framed around controversial. I really would encourage us as a body to be mindful of what that sets and frames it as. It's inviting a discussion of like, you may have a problem with this, so we should talk about it. And I just think we should be mindful of that kind of language when we're discussing these items. So if we want to adopt the ordinance or this, whatever this is as it is, this policy.
Yeah, potential policy direction, that's all.
I'm open, I'm okay with it. I just think we need to be self-editing of how we refer to these items.
John, you're awful quiet. What do you think?
I'm just, I think everyone should state what they would like. That we'd all know. And that's fine. Everyone would get your wish or your, you know, your desired proclamation, and we do just proceed that way and see where we end up. And if that's what we decide that every year, we make it annual, or this year, I don't know, are we gonna do the Holocaust every year, or we've already done it? That's what I'd like to, I don't know if we're gonna just keep repeating, you know, if he knows that every year we're gonna do the same, or if every year you want, you know, Hispanic heritage, you want to recognize, and you just mentioned every January.
Well, that's the whole point, John, is that we don't make it annual and in perpetuity, because like I said, there's only 12 months. So if we take up the 12 months and you say, hey, well, we'd like this month to be, no, sorry, that's already been taken. So we really need to do this on an annual basis.
So since we've gone through let's do our annual basis tonight and then that's what I'd like
Yes,
to put.
we'll do it on an annual basis.
Tell
So
our desires and.
But do you guys all want it on the consent calendar, or do you want to give the city manager discretion as to whether it needs to be brought before us for some reason or another? I lean towards discretion simply for making it work, but I see and hear what you're saying and I appreciate what you're saying. So
If
I'm
we
not,
agree on it tonight, then the whole year's covered. And then whatever comes up, comes up.
right, but what I'm asking is
well-
if it comes up, how?
what she's,
Right.
what she's saying is, do we leave the discretion of Scott to something comes up, like somebody rescues a baby out of a tree, you know, whatever the case is, he could be able to come up with that. And that was a strange example.
I don't know how baby's gonna get in a tree, but.
You know, it was a little tongue in cheek, but I will defer to that. I will say
Yeah,
that
second it.
we'll leave it to Scott's discretion for some things that, you know, that's why we hired him. If there's something that you feel is controversial, that it needs to come before us for
If there's
discussion.
something that comes up that I feel may not have universal appeal, I will bring it back. to the
Correct,
city
that's a
council.
good way to.
We're getting closer
Okay,
there,
so
guys.
We're getting there, we'll
Okay,
figure it
So
out.
let's move on to Lisa. What is your list?
So I'm only gonna say one because I know the rest of my list is covered. So the only one, other than the Holocaust that I want to look at is, National Military Appreciation Month in May. And I have no qualms with whether it's the first or second meeting, just sometime in May, because I think it's really important that we honor our veterans and our armed service members in the community.
You stole my only one.
Sorry. So
Would you
sorry.
like to move that to July?
Is July is like, is there
Well,
some
it's
kind of
we
recognition?
have Fourth of July. If we
July.
make it a U.S. Military Veterans Appreciation Month in July.
Yeah, I would totally be okay, but I have a question for you guys on that one. So there's like several different organizations locally. Can we give the proclamation to more than one organization?
No.
Well, we did that with,
So what?
yeah, we did that with Pride Month.
That's quick.
Well,
So it's okay, right?
yeah, well, we have some things that are coming up here anyways, and so I think Scott's probably going to be contacted about that. There are some people that are gonna try to do something on Amarillo flags, of veterans,
Yeah, we
appreciation.
had that last year
Yeah.
and,
Right.
that would be one of those things where, you know, the council may want to issue a special proclamation for that event as opposed to a proclamation for the whole month. The Military Appreciation Month, you may want to designate, and then you may want to also recognize the organizers of that particular event.
Right, so will you defer to July?
Yeah, I don't mind when we do it. I just,
So let it be written.
I would just like more than one organization because I have like two.
Point of personal order. I need to use the restroom. I'm so sorry. I've been holding it for like 10 minutes.
John?
Yeah, I like the military one, but I would like to have a proclamation of law enforcement recognition. And I don't know what month that would be.
Let me look it up for you.
It probably is a national law enforcement.
Yeah, definitely. I like that one too.
And especially Iowa Patrol.
Oh, we're gonna drill down. Well, it was January 9th was National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day.
Oh,
Highway Patrol Appreciation Day. No. That is not listed as one.
They're peace officers or
CHP Appreciation Day.
Peace Officer Memorial Day? Oh, wait, Peace Officers Memorial Day is Wednesday, May 15th.
that could be nice. And we can just make it all
Law enforcement.
law
month.
enforcement since we moved
May,
military
okay.
to.
or we can, since we are doing this from essentially at this point, February to next January, we could put it into next January's list because it's part of that year. So, or part of the year we're discussing right now.
Yes.
Would you like to do it May 15th this year and then schedule it for January 9th for 2025?
What's the significance? Isn't there there's Peace Officers Memorial?
Peace Officer Memorial is May 15th.
15.
Law Enforcement Appreciation
Is
is
Tuesday, January 9th.
January 9th.
Okay.
But that was
yeah,
this year's.
let's-
was
yeah,
January 9th. Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
So we'll go May this year and then going forward.
Peace Officers Memorial Month, May, and then January Appreciation.
Cool.
John, anything else?
Nope, that's,
He's got notes.
Been waiting for this all year.
David?
I would like to put down Pride Month for June 1st to June 30th. Either one works for that. I would like to recognize Juneteenth, which is June 19th. I would like to do National Disability Awareness Month, or depending upon where we find it, we could do the ADA Act, which was signed. So that's July is the month, but the ADA Act was signed on July 26th. But I think we all have at some point, either here or on the campaign, said we want to make Buellton more accessible. And so I think that'd be a good time to recognize how are we servicing all community members. So I don't know if you'd like to have that be a month or a day. I'm open to that conversation.
Since we already have something in that month, this is how we run out of months quickly. How about we do a proclamation then?
Yeah, let's do, so yeah, it's the American Disabilities Act signing was on July 26th. So if we could have a proclamation recognizing that, and I think that's a good time to have a conversation of how we're making Buellton accessible.
So I'm gonna task you with.
I already know.
Okay, there you go.
What was that date again? I'm sorry.
It's July 26th, which is ADA. We'll keep going. Hispanic Heritage. Oh, I'll pause.
For a moment. Is that an organization?
Well, actually, so ADA covers both for developmental and physical occurrences. So there are multiple organizations, like we have a large group of people who are supporting children with autism or things like that. So you can get them involved with it. It's a very encompassing, everyone gets involved with that day. So you can invite multiple groups with it. And it's mostly nonprofits. Or
Yeah, I would rather have it go to an organization that can hang it on their wall.
Yeah, no,
than
yeah.
Individual.
Oh, yeah, no, it's not an individual. I know the individuals who run the organizations,
Okay,
so we can get them in touch with that.
Let's keep it to that.
Yes, everything's an organization based. Hispanic Heritage Month, which is September 15th to October 15th. Anything within that? Thank you. And then finally, because I thought you were going to maybe do it, but Native American Heritage Day is November. I have it on the list, but I thought maybe you were going to take it, but.
Oh, no. I was gonna let you
Yeah,
go.
so Native American Heritage Day, which is November 24th, and I think that would be good for us. You could also phrase it as Indigenous people. We can,
For it.
November 24th.
I think they would prefer it.
I think that's framed better as Indigenous people.
So
Yeah,
why
Columbus
don't
Day.
we bring in,
Oh, no, did you?
what do we do, a proclamation and bring in the tribe?
That would be great. That's
Sure.
not.
Yeah, let's
we
do a
don't-
proclamation on that and make it the tribe, and we'll present it to them.
And if it's Indigenous people is how it's best phrased. Perfect. Okay, and that's November 24th.
Okay.
Hey, I'm kidding. That's all I got. Anything from you, Dave?
That's it. I want July to be US Military Appreciation Month.
Okay.
Okay. John, nothing else.
I think Hudson missed his turn.
Lawyers Day.
Yeah.
Might be a little controversial.
Every day's lawyer day.
Somehow we're
Made
not.
that Buellton Shyster Day.
Slander.
The only one with my favorite firm there. Do each of them a
These are just proclamations.
That's lawyers.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
Honoring the heritage and whatnot.
heritage, or we have discussions about the ADA Act. It's a pretty
Well,
open.
that's why you threw me with the ADA Act thing, yeah.
We also covered law enforcement / peace officers.
Right, honoring service, but that's why I was wondering about the ADA.
And then we're doing memorial as well. Peace officer.
And ADA is just proclamation acknowledging that people have
Yes.
disabilities.
Well, so it's more of a recognition, like the ADA Act is one of the most consequential legislation pieces that has brought equality to people who have experienced those types of things. So it's also a good time for us to reflect upon how we're supporting people with disabilities and ensuring that our policies are in alignment with that from a community values space.
For sure, but that's a proclamation.
Yeah,
we
you
have
recognize
to,
it.
You know, like whereas Buellton is
Okay,
best
okay.
to support, people with disabilities, with
We get the link. We'll
infrastructure, blah, blah, blah.
we'll workshop it. We'll fix it in post.
So I just
Linda's got
clarify.
it.
We're just freestyling. here.
Smither.
Mhm.
I feel bad for Linda with this freestyle form we're doing, I'm trying to take notes. Okay, everybody,
It's a gift.
you're good? Good. Okay, that is settled science. Okay, moving on to number 12, consideration for preemptive adjustment of staff salary ranges, and this will be City Manager Scott Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the city council. as you may be aware, we live in Buellton is situated in an area which has found it difficult in recent years to recruit for employees. The city of Buellton in particular has had some difficulty over the past couple of years trying to find employees. I was meeting with a group of city managers countywide today, and that sentiment was expressed across the entire county. Given our relatively low population density and the relatively remote locations of a lot of our cities, it's very difficult to find employees who will move to this area to find work. Likewise, given the high cost of living here, it's important for the city to be competitive in its salary ranges for our employees, to be able to not only attract them here, but to keep them here. We have been, over the past 5 years or so, working toward bringing employees' salary ranges up toward the county average. We're not quite there. We are slated to perform a compensation and classification study in the next fiscal year. And the purpose of that study is to look at, first of all, what appropriate salary ranges might be, but in addition to that, what appropriate structuring of the organization should look like, given the current labor laws, current functions of the city, whether or not there's a better and more efficient way to structure that the city's organization. What we're looking at, what we're asking the council to consider tonight, is an increase in salary ranges for all staff other than the city manager, as I'll call it a preemptive effort. Given the fact that we're not going to see the results of the classification and compensation study until late this calendar year at the earliest, we wanted to provide a buffer, if you will, or a bit of additional funding in advance of that, to try and encourage the employees that we have to stay here and stick it out for another year until we figure out where we're at and where we're supposed to be. For most of our staff, everyone except the department heads, they're all roughly within probably 3% and 7% of the county average. And so in order to make that relatively competitive with other cities, other agencies in the county here, staff is looking at, or is recommending that the city council consider a 5% increase, the addition of one more salary step to their ranges. That will bring everyone within 3 points or so of the county average. Our department heads are in a little different situation. We have department heads salaries which range anywhere from 12 to 14% below average up to 30% plus below average. I will simply note that in the event that we were to lose a department head, were they to go someplace else for higher pay or for whatever reason, we would find it extremely difficult to find a replacement in short order for a department head. While we could find someone to fill that seat, it would likely be a consulting firm. Those firms can do that. They will send someone out here and cover those positions for us, but they will be much more expensive than we would find hiring someone, as a city employee. So in an effort to try and maintain our staffing, staff is recommending that, again, the council look at a 5% increase for non-department head positions and a 10% increase. This would be 10% incremental toward what may ultimately be the needed increase for the department head positions. I've kind of thrown a lot at you right now. There's a lot of moving parts. I'm happy to answer any questions if you need that. That's our recommendation this evening.
I have a question.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, is there any questions for staff? Go ahead.
I have a question. When we approve a salary, an extra salary staff or a salary increase for any department head or even a position, right? Doesn't that run by the council? Doesn't that run by the council?
No, salary steps are established by the city council. Each position has an established salary range. Right now we have 5 steps A through E, or 1 through 5, however you want to look at that. the city council establishes the range, and then the progression of an employee through the given range is done at the discretion of the department head and the city manager.
Got it. But for a department head though, right? Like say
Yeah.
department head raise,
Mhm.
they have the steps, but then that's it, right?
That's it. When they
Once
reach,
we have the position established.
that's right. In order to increase that, the city council would have to take the action we're talking about right now to increase that range.
But we could do that on a case by case basis as well, right?
You can, it's not the way that I would recommend doing it. It's
Yeah,
a little more difficult to maintain staff morale that way.
Yes, definitely.
Uh,
No, my other question is about attachment one. I don't really understand what I'm looking at here.
I'm sorry, I should have explained that in my report. Attachment one is simply a comparison of the top range of Buellton department heads' salaries,
Monthly, correct?
monthly salary, correct, compared to the other cities in Santa Barbara County that we were able to get numbers for. I will note that there are a couple of discrepancies here, a couple of changes. Solvang, as of Monday night, I believe, approved an increase of their utility director, public works director's salary to a level of 175,000 from a level of 154. So that is not reflected in this chart. Also, what's not reflected in this chart is the actual salary ranges of the Santa Maria department heads. You'll see that they're all listed here as $11,432. 5 years ago, they actually had actual salaries. They were all much higher than that. And so I can only assume that 5 years later, we would be higher still. I spoke to the city manager there today, and he told me he would get me numbers for that, but I have not yet received them, so I don't have those for you this evening. Nevertheless, even with the numbers where they're at not being accurate, you can see the last column over here at the far end of the table indicates the amount below the estimated county average that each of these staff members sits at right now.
So is that what I'm looking at? Like what's the difference per brackets and what's the base salary percentage of the market? What does that mean?
Yeah, the difference that you're seeing there is the difference between what the average monthly salary is and the Buellton department has a monthly salary. And then the percentage is the percentage of that difference as a function of the average salary.
Okay.
John, have any questions?
Is every employee gonna get a 5%, according to this, get 5% raise?
That's the recommendation. Our estimate is that all city staff are falling below the county average. And somewhere, as I said, probably between 3% and 7%. And so our assumption here is that an increase of 5% will bring everyone to within a couple percent of that average. Might be a little above, might be a little below. And the department heads increase would not bring anyone to the county average. But it would get them closer, and then the class and comp study next year would give us a better target to shoot for, so that we know what ranges we should be looking at for each of those department heads. They tend to vary a little more than the non-department head staff do.
So the cost of living, the annual cost of living that we decide on
Is completely separate from this.
So this is just an add-on. Then the cost of living will be above.
Yes, this is to increase the salary range, and then the discussion will come in a couple months as to what the city council feels an appropriate cost of living increase should look like.
Doesn't the cost of living increase the range as well?
It does. There's a difference between the cost of living increase and this. The purpose of this recommended increase is to bring city salaries up to a level which is competitive with a county average. The purpose of the cost of living increase every year is to ensure that the value that of compensation that an employee gets does not diminish year over year because of inflation. And so the cost of living increase is essentially intended to ensure that that salary range stays the same, roughly the same in terms of spending power.
And do we have a longevity? At one time, we had a longevity.
Used to live.
And what is that?
So at 5 years, it's $50. At 10 years, it's 100. At 15 years, it's 150. And it caps out at $200 for 20 years.
What is that?
I'm sorry.
And that's per month.
A per month add-on, separate from this.
Yes.
Okay.
Incentive
Okay, any other?
for
questions
service
staff?
bonus.
It seems like we could do more for the longevity piece.
But-
That's a different conversation.
I had a question. How many staff members do we have?
We have authorized 21 full-time. We currently only have 20 on the books.
And from this city, you would roughly say Solvang's of a similar size and everything. How many do they have?
I want to say they're at about 38.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to do.
38 full-time staff members. Okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Linda, anything from the public?
No, sir.
Any other comment from staff?
Unless you have questions for me, I have no further comment.
Anything else to put in?
I think that it behooves the city to ensure that the people that are running it are making comparable salaries, because it doesn't matter how much they love their job or how much they enjoy working for the city. If next door they can make $10,000 more a year or more, they're gonna leave. And we have some really quality people, as seen by the awards we win every year for our budget. You know, all the planning things that go on, like we have quality people and it behooves us to keep them. And if they were to leave us now, we would not be able to fill their positions with quality people, given the current salary that we.
Hudson?
Yeah, I'm all for paying people a good salary. I know it's getting harder and harder to live, period. I would only note that the department head salary survey, it does take into consideration municipalities that are quite a bit larger. And so we know that the average, is just that, an average, it's not a median necessarily.
Right.
Or typically.
Mhm.
And, yeah, I mean, we're a town of 5,000 odd people. Having said that, I do support paying people their worth and having them be able to live here and also recruit them. I know how hard a time the county is having at that. Those are my thoughts.
Because who can buy $1 million house? John?
All right, that's one question.
I have a few
comments. Okay, any comments?
No, I agree with the cost of living where the CCWA is having the same kind of thing with the hiring and the wages are going up considerably.
Vice Mayor?
I have a lot of thoughts on this, so I figure let's get into it a little bit. So I agree. I understand where we're coming at from the 5% salary increase, and I think that's one where keeps us in the where I struggle a lot is looking at this department head salary survey and seeing the discrepancy with it. And I think we take a few things for granted with it. Like we have a staff that's 21 people running a municipality of our size that we laud as being lean, low in our overall staffing levels for that. But when you compare us to our neighbors from a cost of living perspective, when you look at Lompoc or Santa Maria, who have, I just was checking out right now, Buellton's average median home price is $845,000, but Lompoc's is $609,000 and Santa Maria is $555,000. When other cities are paying at a salary rate that also has a lower cost of living, it kind of precludes that discussion about economic migration. I think about the fact that 3 of the council members on here has to work in a different city while we live here from a stance of just being able to make it work. I think that when we talk about how we're attracting people as a city in general, Buellton should be the town leading the way for being like, if we want to say we want good jobs, we want good paying jobs, we want families living here, we set that precedent and we set that tonality by being a town that pays employees a living wage that could allow them, if they so wanted to live here. And so I struggle when we see 4%, 10%, 18%, 25%, 29%. To me, that's just saying we're underpaying our staff. If they leave, we'll start paying the person who replaces them the adequate rate, because that's always what happens. You don't reward loyalty in most organizations. $200 a month for 20 years is not going to close the gap of what we have here. And so I come from the lens of, I don't like the idea of, Well, if they leave, we'll pay the next person who has no institutional knowledge, who has no awareness, and then the onboarding, the recruitment, the costs that come from it. Why not skip that step and just pay people what we would pay them if we hired someone else to do the exact same job? And that's dictated by a median-based salary. I think Buellton could argue as being the most median place in Santa Barbara County from a cost of living. Most people who live in Buellton work in Goleta and Santa Barbara and make that commute. Most people who work in Buellton live in Lompoc and Santa Maria and make that commute. We perpetuate this idea of live one place and work another so you can afford where you live. I would say that we have an obligation to adjust and move this, to close this gap drastically. And I don't think 10% is enough of that. I don't think 10% is enough for us to say, hopefully it buys us time and no one quits so that we don't have to replace them and start paying the next person more. And so I think as a council, we should look at actually bringing these positions up to the median market salary and not have it be this intermediary step and just hope we don't have to pay someone more later. Let's just pay what we would pay now. There's my 2 cents.
That was pretty good. I thought you were reading that. I agree with you on a large portion of that. And I think that a lot of the ways these things are done, people are paid more in the future is they do comparison. They do, hey, what's your system doing? What's your sister municipality doing? Oh, they're paying more. Well, yeah, so your union's going to go fight for more. And that's how people get paid more in general. So I'm pro that. And I think we definitely need to pay people what they're worth. But I also think that let's put an asterisk on that, and that, you know, different department heads do different things. They manage a different amount of people, and the same applies across different municipalities, different counties, right? That, you know, different directors have to manage different things, larger, more complex processes, et cetera, et cetera. So we're not entirely analyzing apples and apples here. So let's just be cognizant of that as well. Having said that, I am pro pushing the ball up.
I agree. I think what I was thinking about is like, if my spouse or my child was applying for a job, I would tell them, go where they pay you, not what's the workload. If you're comparing Lompoc or Buellton, I'm not gonna be like, well, get into the nuance. Like, yeah, it's $3,000 less, but you're managing. No, you'd say, go where you are paid appropriately. And so I think that when, like, if you remove it from being someone else's salary, we should think of this as like, what would you actually as a person suggest to your family member to go to? And we should be competing in that realm as Buellton, not in the like, hope it's good enough.
Yes, but you also have to understand that, you know, it's not necessarily a like for like, right? You're not going to necessarily be a department head in Buellton and go work for San Francisco City, right? There's just different elements at play there. So that's one of the things that I want to be cognizant of.
Yeah.
So you can tell your family member, yeah, go to San Francisco because they're going to pay them more, but you might be able to get a job there. Right?
Yeah, but I don't think
there
Buellton
are
to San
parts-
Francisco and Buellton to Lompoc or Buellton to Goleta are necessarily arguable, or Buellton to Santa Barbara.
Well, for sure, but I mean, and so Lompoc is a town of larger, you know, population and less, you know, median home price, but it is, you know, and it is not drastically much more money that they're paying their department heads. Now, having said all that, I am pro paying more, but I just want to make sure we're keeping our feet on the ground here. So Scott, I do have a question from all this. This 10% more, does this take into consideration retirement and budgeting for that?
The fiscal impact that is noted in the staff report, the fiscal impact of these requests is expected to be about $110,675 per year. For the current fiscal year, to be about $46,000. That is inclusive of salary, benefits, the entire cost of having a staff member working here. That's what we're looking at. That's the 5% for non-department heads, 10% for department heads. Obviously, if you look at something different, there'll be more than that.
And just, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to follow Chanel. Chanel, I know, I apologize for not being able to maybe like foresee this in the budget, but like we keep doing things where we keep spending more money. Is there like, how are we doing?
So I actually ran that analysis, assuming what the 10% and assuming what Vice Mayor Silva kind of mentioned. The general fund is still doing well. Water fund, sewer fund, the only thing I would say with that is because there's actually 2 department head positions that tap into the sewer and water fund is finance director and public works. So going, I have it here. So roughly the impact to the water fund and sewer fund would be about $23,000 each. So something to consider is the general fund can absorb it. Sewer fund's already in the red, water fund is still in the black, but in a few years it won't. But one thing to consider too is we do have a water sewer rate study that can help with those races as well.
David? Sorry. excuse me.
Oh, go ahead. I didn't know if you were directing a question at me on that.
I was
David.
gonna say, please continue what you're gonna say, but I didn't want to take.
No,
Bro,
go
No,
ahead.
Mr.
Dave has
Mayor.
had a chance.
No, go ahead.
Continuing on the right, but anyway, I also just want to say, and it's not to be taken lightly. We have, I don't know how many years, Scott, have we had a large surplus? And I'm coming to a point. How many years have we had a surplus, would you
At
guess?
least the last 5 years, we've had a surplus. Oh, I'm sorry, at least the last 4 years, we've had a surplus.
From an ethical standpoint, I struggle with having a lauded and celebrated surplus as a city, knowing we are underpaying our staff. And I would say that I don't appreciate framing things from set the budget and figure out what you can pay your people. You should pay your people, and then we should be like, I struggle personally with, like, I've made adjustments to our arts and culture budget for $50,000 before our own people were paid appropriately. We should face the reality of what it would be to run a city with well-paid and adequately paid. I'm not asking for amazing salary. I'm asking for median average salary for amazing work they're doing. I would rather have to have us figure out how to make a balanced budget work from cutting other things to discuss because our people are paid adequately. I would rather have that be what we lead with and not it be set the budget and like, well, I hope we can pay them kind of okay for a little bit. I struggle with that from a moral standpoint. I can feel the heat radiating, Dave. Please let off some steam.
I was just gonna comment that I agree we should pay people appropriately. And I mean, I would reject the implication that we are not, although I do feel like people do deserve a raise because it's getting harder to live. But if you look at the chart here, Buellton is paying more. Now, different department heads, I will also note, are paid differently. But, roughly speaking, paying more than Carpinteria, Lompoc, and Solvang, right? And then almost as much as Santa Maria. And I'm hearing you and I'm supportive of the raise, but I am rejecting the implication that we are somehow flat out not paying them enough, and it's an ethical quandary.
21 full-time staff versus 38 full-time staff at Solvang. That means that the people who are getting underpaid are working more jobs and providing us a cost savings than what a similar municipality would be expecting them to do. So yes, maybe they're paying at Solvang $10,580 for city clerk and $8,684 for the HR director. In Buellton, that's being done by one person. And we're not paying double for that person. So I just think of it as like, you're right. You could at Solvang, we're paying more than Solvang. Maybe Lompoc's larger, but Lompoc probably has more people supporting these people. And so we're getting possibly a bargain of having one person covering and absorbing 4 positions that would be in another city. You want to talk, like, that's where I'm just like, maybe we should look at the fact of when you have a lean team, you pay them adequately and not like, how much more can we put on them without paying for another position? Because it's way more expensive than to give someone a raise who knows how to do their job than to hire a secondary person with salary plus benefits. Have I given you enough time to write all the notes you want to retort with?
I'm good.
Okay, I think 10% is a little generous because if we start doing the math and we ran into this issue at SB CAG that you start giving people these 10% and then they get the COLA and then they get a bonus on top of that. You start getting into $250,000, $300,000 a year jobs. Okay, so we give our staff the 10%. That's $1,036 per month for the first 10%, and then the next one, because it went up to 13,600, that's a $1,368 dollar per month raise, which then if you give the following year, you give them a COLA raise. Now you're paying your staff in 2 years or 3 years with the COLAs. And I didn't take into consideration the COLA that's going to come after those 2 10%. your department heads will make $176,000 per year. And then you will have to give them a 5% COLA on top of that. You want a step raise, which is 10%.
5%. Well,
Okay, for your
department heads, it's a
department head.
two-step.
Right, at 10%.
At 10%, that's one. And that's 2-step increase. There's not anything beyond that at this point. So, for instance, you're
So but
correct.
you wanted 2-step raises at 10%, a 5, a
No,
6 and a 7.
A 6 and a 7 at 5%, that is 10% raise.
Okay, but your staff says, okay, I could be reading this wrong.
Yeah, it was a little vague up there.
I know it's kind of a convoluted way of doing it. Rather than coming to the council and saying, hey, how about a 5% and a 10%? I wanted to equate it to how we give staff pay increases as part of our personnel structure. So it's a little difficult. We're stepping outside that arena a little bit by doing this, but
So
yeah.
this also preserves, though, right now, if I understand this correctly, what you're saying is don't increase the whole salary schedule itself by the 5 or the 10%. Give them a 10% raise by adding 2 more steps, correct?
Right. It's essentially what we will do is add 1 step onto the non-department heads, 2 steps onto the department heads, and we'll pull off the bottom step for the non-department heads and the 2 bottom steps from the department heads.
Okay.
So it will still be a 5-step range. It's just increasing it by that. And it's a convoluted way of explaining it. I just didn't want to make it look like we're just dropping money on top of a range without explaining how it's going to fit into the way we structure our salary ranges. So yes, it would be a single 10% raise. And the question of COLA comes into this, and that's why I think it's an excellent question and worth a bit of discussion. Again, what we're talking about with this is bringing salaries into a competitive range within the region. The function of a COLA is not to bring salaries into a competitive range. Function of a COLA is to keep them within a competitive range, to make sure that over time you don't have diminished spending power because of inflation. So you know, if you're making $1,000 a month right now, you know that if you're making $1,000 a year ago, it's only worth $930 this year, unless you had a COLA increase of 7% or whatever to keep up with that. So each time that COLA doesn't happen, the salary ranges drop below what that county average is in theory. We don't know what the county average is exactly. We don't know that we're comparing apples to apples for all these positions. That's why the compensation and classification study that we're looking at come the next fiscal year is important, because according to, in my memory and in the city clerk, human resources director's memory, there has never been one of these studies done. We really need to bring our organizational structure and salary structure into the modern era here and make sure that we're paying our staff what we should be. Now, what those ultimate numbers are is entirely up to the city council. All I'm trying to do right now is stave off a potential poaching of one of our staff members by a nearby city who happens to have a position open right now that pays considerably more. There are a couple of those right now. So,
and even just from your COLA perspective, when
Who's
you
going?
the 30-year
No one's going.
30-year historical, the CPI has been 82% cumulative. Buellton has done 72.54%. You would have done better retiring, because Social Security is at 77% of adjustments. We are 10%, almost 10% behind, just keeping up with inflation from a salary perspective. So as an FYI, over a 30-year span, our employees are making 10% less than they were earning in 1992 relative to inflation. If we did, like, our COLAs have fallen almost 10% behind. You would have done better just retiring and letting the Social Security COLAs keep up at a better rate than we have done as a city. So I think, again, that brings it back to framing it as like, I don't agree with how could we possibly be increasing it? It's like, I think it more as like, how have we let it get so far behind?
I'm good with a 10%.
Do we have a vote then?
Yeah, but you're talking about an immediate 10%, and the 2 steps are not subsequent years.
That's
not a
correct.
5 and a
It's
5.
just think of it as a one-time 10%. Then when next fiscal year, we do the classification, then they're topped out because all of our department heads are at step 5 already. So essentially, they'll still be at step 5. It'll just be 10% higher. There's no increases after this. We'll do the compensation and classification study early next fiscal year. We'll come back to the city council with the findings for that, and then you can determine what, if any, actions are appropriate based upon the findings of the study.
I'm good with that. If we're
So that's about a $14,000 a year increase for all your heads of department.
Yeah, I don't have it broken down by department head and not here,
I
but
did a 5 and 5, and it's about 14,000.
okay. Chanel, I don't know if you can.
Back to
My
Mayor
eye,
here.
we start talking this fast math, my eyes cross, and I look to Chanel for assistance.
Give me a second here.
It's 1,136. Is what I get
Well,
Per person, yeah,
per person.
times.
Well, you're looking at a 10% on 11,000 per month.
Yep, that's 1,136.
11,368 times 10% is 1,136 times 12 is 13,600.
Okay, it was, well,
So, yeah,
I rounded it up,
yeah.
14,000.
Yeah, it's still about, what, 13,000 times 4, so. What is that, 53?
54.
54,000.
54,500.
well, I am bolstered by the fact that Chanel did crunch the numbers for the 10% increase, and the only place we're running in the potential red is potentially going to be addressed by our, water and sewage rate conversation coming up here. So I feel good about the staff recommendations.
Are we at a motion? Like, can I make a motion now or?
All right.
I understand where you guys are coming from. I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave. I didn't know if the mumbling that you were.
Now, I'm gonna move that we accept this proposal from the staff as presented.
I will second that, but I wanted to go with Councilmember Silva had to say.
Well, it's kind of a moot point now, isn't it?
I let you in with a mumble and you move with
Never
emotion.
Never.
All right,
Go ahead.
no, it's all right.
Somebody wants
Actually,
to-
I think I know. where-
Wait, order. Okay.
I wanted to confirm. This conversation we're having does not preclude a COLA adjustment that will take place. And it does not preclude the fact that we will have a compensation study later this year, which will then give us the database of apples to apples comparisons for what that would look like for an additional salary increase, should it be with the findings from the study. I just want to make sure clear that that's the kind of calendar of this conversation.
What the council's discussing tonight will not preclude those items, nor will it require those items.
Okay.
Those are separate items that will come before the city council for separate consideration in the future.
Okay.
Have a motion to second, Linda?
Okay, Mayor King,
Aye.
Councilmember Hornick,
All right.
Councilmember Lewis,
I,
Councilmember Sanchez,
Aye.
and Vice Mayor Silva.
All right.
Thank
Let's
you,
move
guys.
on to city manager's report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the city council. I have but one item for you this evening. Back in December at the hearing where the In-N-Out project was discussed, there was a comment that came from the city council that was a little bit troubling regarding a reputation that the city has for its planning process being a difficult one. We have been, that is something that we have been looking at for a while. We've done a few things to kind of try and address that. But it's clear we may need to do more. What I'm just, the purpose of this item tonight is simply to inform the city council that we will be looking to undertake some outreach to the development community in particular, to have a sit down and listen kind of a meeting to determine what exactly the concerns are that are coming from the development community. I have some suspicions, but we won't know that until we do this outreach. And so while it would be very easy for me to say, oh, this is actually a county responsibility, or this is not something that we have any control over, I'd rather sit down, get the feedback from the development community, go back behind closed doors and work out, see where the issues are, what we can improve, what we can't, and then come back to the city council with a report on that. So I just wanted to let you know that is something that was heard, and we're going to return to the council in the future with something on that. And we will keep you posted. If you have any, if you've received any feedback yourselves from anyone in the development industry regarding those types of comments, please let me know who that is. I would be happy to invite them to the meeting and listen to what they have to say. All right, with that, I'll conclude my report.
Yeah, Counselor. Have anything before we go into closed session?
Nothing for me tonight, sir.
I'm going to close our regular meeting. Next regular meeting will be February 8th, 2024, 6 p.m. And I will let the room clear and we'll take a 5-minute break.
28th.